This video is one of the 4 strategy videos we have about how to group missions. General overview, grouping missions 1, grouping missions 2, and grouping missions 3. And we'll be using factors such as the point value of missions, the difficulty of missions, the distance, number of active attachments, and the general order of the rounds to determine how to group our missions. We'll be using the 2014 to 2015 World Class Mat to do this, but all the strategies we've covered can be applied to this year's Trash Truck Mat as well. Now we'll look at an example of a path that you could use, and this will be our first path that we will make, and this is geared toward teams that feel like they can't accomplish as much missions and are limited to a couple missions that are easier than the rest. So this is where difficulty comes in hand. And in our first set, we want to value easier missions over missions that are worth a lot of points. Because missions that are worth a lot of points we might not be able to accomplish. So if we look at missions that are easy, we have cloud access, changing conditions, apprenticeship, opening doors, maybe pushing the search engine button, as well as taking a shot for sports. If you notice, all these missions are relatively close to base because we don't want it to be too far off, or else we have to worry about alignment and the robot getting off the track. So if we want to design some groups for these missions, we have to consider missions that have the same motion. For example, 2 missions that involve lifting up a ring will usually use a similar attachment, and we also have to consider distance. So if a good idea is to mark each mission, if we can design something that's passive, which means we don't need an extra motor to accomplish, or if something is active. For example, we need a motor to lift up a loop. So adapting to changing conditions, we can probably use a passive attachment because we just need to push the robot and it'll flip the switch. Whereas cloud access will take an active attachment probably because you need to lower something into the keyhole. For apprenticeship, we could use a passive attachment because we just need to push some people to the project-based learning area. Opening doors will probably involve an active attachment because not only do we need to push down the handle, but we need to push the door open. The search engine will probably be a passive motion for the pushing part because all we need to do is have the robot push the button and spin the wheel, and we'll get 15 points. And for taking a shot at sports, we're going to need an active so we can attempt to shoot the ball, and that probably requires an arm to do. So now that we have labeled each mission as a passive or active, we could start grouping the missions. Keep in mind that we have 2 extra motors other than our 2 driving motors. This is very important because we want to limit the amount of actives every round to 2 because we only have 2 extra motors. So luckily for us, we only have 3 active motions on the missions that we want to accomplish. So for the first round, we could do something where we go out of base, maybe follow the wall here, and accomplish the cloud access and adapting to changing conditions. For our second round, what we could do is we could have a quick one that would just open the door with a simple arm. Then we can just have the robot push the apprenticeship model and push the search engine as our third round. Keep in mind that this requires no motor. And finally, we could drive a robot all the way to the sports area and take a shot for 30 points. Now keep in mind that our robot ends up outside of base. And again, the robot does not have to be in base when the match ends. So you can use this to take advantage where if you want to get to a faraway place, such as taking the shot, we might want to put that as the last mission because we just need to go out and we don't need to go back. For recap, we basically looked at the missions we wanted to accomplish, and we decided whether each mission required a passive or active attachment. And then from there, we used distance as well as similar attachments to design grouping. That's all for the video. Thanks for watching.